Hey, so update, I changed my computer, so now I have a different mic, and it's gonna sound a little different. If that's anything, doesn't really matter, but yeah, that's all. Okay, so this is a movie not a lot of people have seen because it's a Bollywood film, but let's talk about Jawan. I hope I didn't mispronounce that because I'm gonna be saying that a lot more times. Seriously, I can't believe people like me and probably the people watching this video don't watch more of these Bollywood films. Movies like these are genuinely so awesome and different from any of the slop that normal Hollywood films are. This and RRR are both completely balls of chaos that are so visually and tonally creative. Besides RRR, I haven't seen a single film that is this tonally bizarre and absurd, but in the best way possible. I want to talk about Jawan because I loved it, but also because of how little Bollywood films are talked about. Maybe it might not be for you, the dancing can be silly at some points, but movies like this are so rare and hard to find in regular Hollywood films that the closest thing you'll get to like the insanity of this is like Everything Everywhere All at Once or like Matrix, I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about Jawan because I want to, and I want everyone to see this movie because seriously, this writer's strike thing is gonna kill Hollywood. This is a pretty good backup. Okay, so first of all, this movie is absolutely wild in tone. Just for context, this movie opens with a local village finding a burned man and putting him in a shelter and wishing upon the gods that he'll come back from the dead. Then we get this absolutely brutal action scene of village people getting murdered and the bandaged man saves them after coming back from the dead in this incredible action moment. And then we just cut to 30 years later on a train heist. This movie loves its tone shifts for no reason, just because the theme that Bollywood films go for where something horrific might happen, like all the farmers killing themselves, and then it'll just cut back to a normal conversation between two characters. This movie also uses a lot of dance numbers, which can sometimes be draining, but these dance numbers are so cool. I'll talk about them later, but they're great. Anyways, when going in, compared to like every other Hollywood film, Jawan is complete insanity with its tone shifts and action, which I'll talk about later, but the action in this movie is wild. Not on the level of RRR, but it's crazy what they come up with for this movie. Like, none of this Fast X, whatever garbage. Alright, before I talk about how amazing this movie is, I have to talk about what is easily the biggest issue of the film and what other people probably have issues with it. It's just so boring at some points. There are some parts where they completely halt the pacing for random backstories for no reason, and I didn't mind it that much at first, but it got really, really bad towards the end, and it kind of took away from how genuinely fantastic the ending of this movie was. I really don't like the backstories in this one. They feel really pointless, and they're usually just there to confuse the audience more, but some parts in these backstories are really, really important to the general story, but it's usually at the end. The rest is just kind of pointless, brutal gore. But like, some parts in these backstories are really, really important to the general story, but it's usually the backstory at the end. Like, most of it is just kind of pointless gore to shock the audience. A lot of them build up to the main villain of the story and how he's wronged so many people and basically everyone involved in the movie. But it's kind of hard to keep track when he looks kind of different in every single one, since it's supposed to be a different period of time. Also, his theme is really annoying. Every other track in this movie is incredible, but if I have to hear the words all hail again, I'm going to lose it. These backstories also kind of take away from one of the themes of the film, which I wish was built upon more, which was our main character's relationship with his wife. It's very similar to RRR, but they really rush through it. For example, I never felt emotional during this film because of how fast everything is. There's a lot of strange parts that are just there to get you emotional with no build-up, and it wasn't effective or really well done either, except the end, which I won't spoil. That stuff was great, but seriously, it was a missed potential with the main guy and his wife. She's the one trying to catch him for the first half, and the conclusion is her just getting the pictures and shooting him, which is supposed to make me upset, but these guys have never shared, like, they've shared like 10 minutes of screen time. There was no build-up, there's no sense of betrayal when they meet and then immediately get married. Yeah, that's my biggest issue with the film, and now I'm allowed to talk about why this movie is so cool. Ah! Okay, so basically every action scene in this movie is the best action I've seen all year. Get out of the way, John Wick Chapter 4. This is what I'm talking about. There's so much stuff to talk about here because this is a long movie, but the action never gets even slightly boring. It's quite literally perfect, and the third or second, sorry Spider-Verse, best action in any film I've ever seen. And this is seriously why I have to watch more Bollywood, because it has a 3.4 on Letterboxd and it has action that's this jaw-dropping and incredible, which means that this is the average for Bollywood films because people don't really like this one that much, or I'm just stupid, I don't know. This might just be for me and other people might hate it, but movies seriously need to use more slow-mos and appropriate shots because there are so many amazing slow-mo shots in this film. The opening with the bandage man leaping from the sky with the lightning is absolutely incredible, and the more soldiers he fights, the more bandages fall off of him before revealing the character with the bandages on his fist. It's so cool and I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It's just so awesome. awesome. The train opening is a lot more grounded and there's no real action, but the camera shots and cinematography throughout the train is awesome. This is, in my opinion, the best cinematography of the year. Thought behind some of these shots probably took a long time for them to look this good. They came up with so many ideas to make your main characters as cool as possible. Some incredible choices, like the six girls being in all yellow on a drab green train. I seriously don't know how RR and Jawan do this, but they managed to make this movie so goofy but so cool at the same time. Like one of the kids asking one of the girls if she was pregnant and her just responding with, "No, it's a bomb." It's such a stupid line, but it's also really cool. I don't know. Also, the "is it a boy or a girl" response with "no, it's a gun" before blowing the guy's brains out is such an awesome moment. This movie just has so much, and I don't think I should list them all because going in blind is such a great way to experience this one. And before I talk about what is very easily the coolest part of this movie, I'm gonna real quick talk about dance numbers. So I think the first dance number is awesome. You can actually watch it on YouTube, and it's great. There's some awesome transitions, and the song itself is amazing. The music in this movie is incredible. Say what you want to say about T-Series, but they know how to make incredible music, at least for like these two films. The second dance scene is a bit unnecessary, but it's amazing. I love the part with the mimes when she's actually talking about emotions. So the third one is kind of out of place because there's not a lot happening in the story, but they're always nice to see. I just think there's kind of an overuse of them at this point in the story. I hate to do this, but the RR dance number for Natu Natu is flat out perfect, and it makes perfect sense for the story. It's the natural peak of Ram and Bean's friendship, and it's put on full display in the scene, and it's them showing the British people how they can dance too. It's great and only comes back at the end for a song about honoring their leaders, which is like perfect use and a perfect callback. In Jawan, they're completely pointless to the general story, but nowhere near as pointless as the backstories, because they're short, kind of, like a song in a musical, and this is a musical, so yeah. Anyways, that's everything I have to say that's spoiler free, so let's talk about actual spoilers for the rest of this video, because I gotta talk about the characters. That's definitely a spoiler, so you can just skip to the end if you want to. And you probably should. Going into this film blind is so worth it. Our main character's dad's introduction is incredible. I love how he's easily the coolest character in this movie. His action and slow-mos are incredible. I love the red headphones he wears when fighting so they can play rap music over it, and it's not unrealistic or jarring. He also has some great jokes in this movie, like the Santa Claus one and the one with our main character's stepdaughter. The line, "Simba's on TV, but you're messing with Mufasa." He also has what is, in my opinion, the best part of the entire movie, which is like when he's on the motorcycle and he puts his feet on the ground while doing it, and to make sparks, which lights his cigarette, which is like that one scene in Heathers, but like 10 times cooler because it's so awesome. You know, our character is cool when the entire world comes together to see what is basically a terrorist, like they're watching a live stream or something. I do think the overuse of backstories do kind of come together because this is like a murder mystery or something, because there's so many characters that end up coming together by the end. Like seriously, so many tiny characters from like the start or like in the middle chunks are all formed together by the end, and it's so cool and almost makes the boring 40 minutes of backstory kind of worth it by the end. I note that I said kind of. There's this police officer at the start that our main character destroys in a fight, which is awesome. This police officer turns out to be a kid that said he would find out who the main character's dad was, or the bandage man, at the start of the movie in the flashback, and that police officer would go find our main character's dad and reunite them together later in the film, which is such a cool rabbit hole of information that really gets paid off later. There's a bunch of other stuff like this too. There's also this cool theme with the main villain's guns not working, which got 30 soldiers killed in the army, which is where our main guy's dad worked, and at the end where the villain puts a gun to his head, it doesn't work, which is such an awesome payoff, since him trying to scam the government resulted in him having to fight our main character and his dad and get absolutely destroyed. He also got our main guy's mom's hanged in the backstory, and the movie ends with him getting hanged while trying to make a deal with our heroes. Everyone who wronged him circle around him as he gets hanged, which is just the perfect way for a villain to go. It's just so good. I don't think it's as good as the fantastic action, but it's a great way to end off a villain, and it's a great way to make everything come together by the end. Okay, lastly, I want to talk about the lead and how good of an actor he is. He's definitely a huge deal in India, and I will not be saying his name because I will almost definitely fail at pronouncing it, so I'll just call him the lead. I didn't notice this, but he actually plays the two main leads in this film, which is so cool, since when they're on screen together, it actually feels like two different actors talking to each other, which is amazing. It's super well done, and they both feel very different as characters, and then both teaming up in the fight scenes are so awesome and cool. At the start of the movie, our lead does a great job at feeling like a threatening psychopath who's willing to kill people without trying. They really take this terrorist who presumably kills people and makes him an actual hero by explaining his backstory, and then showing that the person he killed on the train wasn't actually dead, and it was an actor he paid, which makes him a fully likable character that stole money from the government to give to the poor. At the end, he also gives a great performance when giving his speech, and it's super good. Other than that, the acting was pretty good. There were some silly performances from the kids, but that's not their fault. They were fine for what they needed to be. There's also a ton of single tears for no reason, which is kind of funny, but again, not that big of a deal. Anyways, the acting was okay, but the leads were great. So, yeah, in conclusion, I love Jawan. It was a great film that is a never-ending thrill ride with some of the best action I've ever seen in a film. Great characters, incredible performances from our leads. It sadly suffers from the issues of having extremely boring flashback scenes that sadly add to the story, so you actually have to pay attention to them. Regardless, it's a great movie, and I loved 80% of it. Because of the 40 minutes of boring stuff, I'm gonna have to give it a high 8 out of 10. So, yeah, please check this one out. It's really, really good and stuff. Thanks for watching. Probably gonna review Good Money or something, not sure. Yeah, this is an epic outro. See you later.